Hi, everyone, and welcome back to LL Sports TV. Hope you're all doing well. Now, today I was at a funeral. I was at the funeral, had my phone switched off, um, didn't switch it on for large parts of the day, as you can imagine. When I did switch it on, when it was appropriate, I switched on the phone and immediately my phone started buzzing off the hook, started getting lots of messages, and news started filtering through that Jake Paul, off the back of that non-fight at the weekend when he beat Julio Cesar Chavez over 10 tedious rounds in Las Vegas. He is now elevated to number 14 in the WBA rankings, which now means that Jake Paul is eligible to challenge for the WBA Cruiserweight title held by Zurdo Ramirez, Gilberto Zurdo Ramirez, very good fighter, 49 fights, 48-1, WBA champion. I think he's a WBO champion as well. So, yes, people, Jake Paul, off the back of that non-fight against Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. at the weekend, absolute farce, has now been elevated to fight for a world title. Now, this is absolute and total madness. It's a farce. I'll go further than that. I'd say it's corruption at its worst. And it makes the sport of boxing look so bad. It makes it look like an absolute clown show. So you're telling me that Jake Paul, he has a record currently of 13 fights, 12 wins with 1 defeat. Now, those 12 wins are made up of unknown fighters, journeymen, MMA fighters, the likes of Ben Askren, Tyron Woodley, Anderson Silva. He's got some social media influencers in there as well. Anderson Gibb, I think, is one. You're telling me a guy of 13 fights, 12-1. The loss that he had, by the way, was to Tommy Fury, who, without wishing to be disrespectful to Tommy, is more known in this country as a reality TV star than he is a boxer. And Tommy Fury beat Jake Paul. So you're telling me that off the back of a record like that, Jake Paul is now eligible to fight for a world title? Come on, man. Make that make sense. Absolutely ridiculous. Especially when you consider as well Jake Paul's last 2 opponents. A 58-year-old Mike Tyson, who, let's be honest, Mike Tyson, former great fighter, but in recent years has had a litany of problems, financial problems, problems involving substance abuse, depression. He's had injuries. I mean, in the fight where he fought Jake Paul, Mike could barely walk to the ring. One of his legs was heavily strapped. So, yeah, you're telling me off the back of that fight with Mike Tyson, which, by the way, was an absolute debacle, really bad night for boxing. Similarly with Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., that wasn't much better. Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., by the way, was not too long out of rehab. He has also had problems with substance abuse. And Jake Paul fought him, as I said, 10 rounds of tediousness. I mean, in that fight, Chavez threw or landed 61 punches. 41 of those were rounds 8 through till 10, which tells you how low his output was. So these are the types of guys that Jake Paul has been fighting. And now you want us to believe that that record that he currently has warrants him getting a shot, a legitimate shot at one of the world titles. Come on, man. Absolute joke. And you know what? As much as I've got a real problem with the way Jake Paul is treating the sport. I mean, I consider Jake Paul to be basically pimping out the sport of boxing, showing it no contempt while making copious amounts of money from it. But you could argue that the WBA are just as bad, if not worse. They are enablers. They're allowing Jake Paul to do this and get away with it by granting him a ranking inside their top 15 so he can get a so-called title shot. It's absolutely ridiculous. And it does the sport of boxing absolutely no favors at all. Such a bad look for boxing, especially given at a time when you could argue that boxing is enjoying at its current moment one of its best times in recent years. I mean, it wasn't that long ago that boxing was getting a real bad look in terms of its publicity. People quite rightly were criticizing boxing and saying, look, you know, there's too many belts, too many titles. The best were not fighting the best. Boxing was on a bit of a down low. And then along came Turki Al Sheikh, and he shook the sport up, invested a lot of money, started putting on some really big fights, attracting the best fighters to fight the best fighters, which is something that we all wanted to see. Along comes Jake Paul, and he's almost single-handedly destroying a lot of that good work through the rubbish that he's doing. So I really do have a problem with it. And I speak to a lot of boxing fans, both in person and online, and they all say the same thing, that Jake Paul is demeaning the sport of boxing with his antics. I mean, he hasn't fought anybody. I mean, I'll give him one thing. He's a master of self-promotion and clout. I mean, what he'll typically do is what he did on Saturday. He'll find a washed-up fighter to fight, beat that guy, and then start calling out legitimate champions, start associating his name with legitimate world champions and legitimate fighters like Canelo, people like that. I mean, he's calling out Gervonta Davis, who's a lightweight, to fight when Jake Paul operates as a cruiserweight. That in itself tells you how ridiculous he can be at sometimes. And as I said before, I honestly believe that Jake Paul is pimping out the sport of boxing. And it's funny because I was thinking shortly before I was preparing this video, and I know it's a bit of a clumsy analogy, but hear me out. Now imagine me and you here, say we, say tennis, for example. We've got a love for tennis. We've got a passion for tennis. So what we say is, right, you know what? I've got some time behind me. I've got a bit of money. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to become a tennis player, right? And I get to a certain level, get myself some coaches, aspire to a certain level. And then I say, you know what I'm going to do now? I'm going to engage with some tennis matches, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to target certain former professional tennis players that are long, long past their best. They may even have had the odd problem or two in their lives, so they're not in their best moment. So what I'll do is I'll call them out. I beat them, right? And then off the back of beating these old washed up tennis players, then I present myself to the authorities and say, look, I want to now play in Wimbledon, in the Grand Slams. Give me a ranking, give me a world ranking so I can play in your prestigious tournaments. What do you think that the tennis authorities would say to me if I tried to do that? I wouldn't get anywhere, in short. They'd run me out of town. So why is boxing allowing Jake Paul to do this? I mean, if Jake Paul wants to engage in the sport of boxing and become a professional, that's fine, but go through the proper routes. This fast tracking himself off the back of cynically exploiting ex-fighters and stuff like that, it's just so played out. And he should not be allowed to get away with it. And as I said before, the likes of the WBA are, to me, just as bad as Jake Paul, because they are his enablers. They're allowing him to get away with it. You know, if Jake Paul wants to become a professional fighter, let him do what everybody else is doing and fight legitimate fighters, work your way up through the rankings properly, legitimately, and then we can judge you as a proper fighter. But this stuff that he's doing here is not boxing. It's not boxing at all. It demeans the sport. It makes the sport look so bad. The aesthetics of this are terrible. It makes the sport look like an absolute laughing stock. And it's about time the authorities did something about it. It's about time the fans did something about it as well, to be honest. We should be voicing our concerns with the likes of the WBA. We should be registering protests to make sure that this kind of thing doesn't happen. Like I said, I've got no problem with somebody who wants to build himself from the ground up, fight the legitimate fighters, build yourself up the proper way, rather than seeking to fast track yourself, make copious amounts of money whilst disrespecting and demeaning the sport of boxing. I think it's totally wrong, and I think it's high time the boxing authorities did something about it. But anyway, that's me. That's what I feel. I don't want to rant too long. I don't even really like doing videos about Jake Paul. But as I said, I was at the funeral today, and as soon as I switched back on my phone, which had been off for large spells of the day, I started getting messages from friends, people I know in the sport, and saying, Laurie, what do you think it is? You've got to do a video about this. This is terrible. Hence why I'm doing this video now. So yeah, that's my opinion on it. Love to know what you guys think. Put it in the comments. Thanks so much for watching the video. Appreciate it as always. If you're new to the channel, please like, share and subscribe. And I'll catch you on the next one. I'm out.